dazzling costumes, striking makeup, and graceful movement. This is Kabuki, one of Japan's best-known traditional performing arts. Kabuki combines elements of theatre, dance and music. In 2008, it was designated as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. Kabuki was born in the early 17th century. It's said it can be traced back to an unusual style of dancing by a shrine maiden. Later on, it moved away from dancing and became more theatrical. It turned into a popular form of entertainment, featuring a wide variety of plays. Kabuki has always drawn on the themes of the times, keeping audiences entertained over the ages. On this edition of Begin Japanology, we look at Kabuki, whose timeless appeal comes from a unique sense of beauty.
Hello and welcome to Begin Japanology. I'm Peter Barakan. The structure you see behind me here is called the Heisei Nakamuraza, and it's a temporary Kabuki playhouse which has been built just by the Sumida River in Tokyo's Asakusa district. These days, Kabuki is almost always performed in permanent theatres, and this place is very different from, for example, the famous Kabukiza, which is actually just being rebuilt now. I got my own first glimpse of Kabuki must be about 30 years ago now. I remember taking a foreign visitor to go and see it. In those days, I was already fairly conversant with the Japanese language, but I was a little shocked to find out that I didn't have a clue what was being said on stage. Having said that, the visual impact was absolutely stunning. It was almost like having an old Japanese picture scroll come to life in front of your eyes. Let's start off today with a look at just what Kabuki is.
Kabuki is a world-renowned traditional performing art. Its elaborate productions transport audiences back to old Japan in spectacular fashion. There are about 400 Kabuki plays. They fall into two general categories. First, there are historical dramas. They're based on incidents in history that took place well before Kabuki itself existed. This is a play called Yoshitsune and the Thousand Cherry Trees. Its main character is the 12th century general Minamoto no Yoshitsune, and it features many fight scenes. The other type of Kabuki play is the domestic melodrama. These plays were based on well-known murders, love-related suicides, and other actual events. They closely reflect social conditions of the Edo period, from the 17th to 19th centuries. This play is known in English as Benten Kozo. It tells the story of 5 thieves, and Benten Kozo is one of them. Its popularity comes from its punchy dialogue. One highlight is when the 5 thieves exchange lines with a special rhythm and cadence. Let's take a closer look at 3 things to focus on in a kabuki performance. First, the players use stock characters, in part to make the stories easier to understand. So we find noble heroes, villains, and female roles, although they are played by men. The makeup helps audiences to identify each character type at a glance. In this scene from the play Kotobuki Soga no Taimen, the 2 Soga brothers, Juro and Goro, confront an enemy of their father's. The brothers are the heroes of the play. Their makeup reflects their personalities. Juro, the older brother, is elegant and refined. We can see this at a glance. In contrast, the makeup of the younger brother, Goro, emphasizes his hot-blooded personality. The villain that the brothers want to take revenge on wears more restrained makeup. This matches his thoughtful demeanor. The most visually striking makeup in kabuki is this striped style. This is the kabuki actor Bando Mitsugoro X. Kabuki actors apply all their makeup themselves. The red striped makeup represents how people's blood vessels pop out when they feel explosive emotion. This makes it obvious that the situation is extreme. We use makeup to clearly show that moment when the character is feeling something with incredible intensity, when he becomes enraged, for example. It's intended to make that easier to grasp. Understanding the symbolism behind kabuki makeup helps you to enjoy the form's stock characters. The next key feature of a kabuki performance is striking a pose. At significant moments in a play, an actor will freeze in place with a dramatic stance and gaze. In order to look as imposing as possible, the actor angles his body to the audience with his feet set wide apart. Then he swivels his head to draw the gaze of the audience to his face. Finally, he makes a dramatic eye movement and freezes. The actor holds still at each stage of the pose, so as to draw the attention of the audience to a specific part of his body. This is similar to a close-up shot in film. Here is kabuki posing at its most compelling, at the climax of a play, when all the actors on stage strike poses in a tableau. This is the ultimate in pose striking. The whole stage becomes a dramatic freeze frame. The third element in appreciating kabuki is that all the female roles are played by male actors. This is Nakamura Jakuemon IV, who recently died. He was a living national treasure who played the roles of young women on stage until he was 89 years old. To generate the illusion of femininity, posture is a key factor. The knees touch, creating a pigeon-toed stance, and the hips are dropped. The shoulders are also dropped. This makes for a softly rounded profile, another feminine touch. The gaze is tilted slightly upward, with the chin tucked in. The position of the fingertips is another important aspect. Curling the fingers slightly makes the hands appear daintier. In all these ways, kabuki acting is highly stylized, and a shared understanding of each convention deepens the audience's appreciation.
Kabuki has a lot of stylized elements, so as long as you have a general idea of what the story's about, you don't really need to understand Japanese well to enjoy the play. In fact, you might be surprised to know that because both the language and the way the lines are delivered is fairly archaic, even a lot of Japanese don't really know what's being said on stage. Theatre you think of as being a medium where you sit still and keep quiet. In Kabuki that's not always the case, as you saw in the video just now. Sometimes there's shouting going on. Now what's that all about? Kabuki has family lineages, and the actors pass on their stage names from generation to generation. So especially when you get a famous actor coming on the stage, what you hear is people in the audience shouting out their lineage name. Now, the way that you do that and the timing in which you do it is quite precise. So if you're going to take part in that, you really have to have a little bit of expert knowledge, otherwise you're going to look like a total idiot. Now, the actors pass on not only their stage names, but their craft as well from father to son. You have certain families which specialize in certain plays, and in some cases there are even plays which are only performed by a particular family. With the classic kabuki plays, the stories are known to just about everybody in Japan. So what people come to see is not the story itself, but the performance. And kabuki enthusiasts will compare, for example, the way that a certain actor does it now with how his father would have performed it in the past, for example. This all adds an extra element of fun to the proceedings. All right, let's move on now and take a look at the kabuki stage itself.
Kabuki features a lot of stage devices that enhance the acting. This scene is like a beautiful painting. And there are also various secret tricks to dazzle the audience. The Shimbashi Embujo Theatre often puts on kabuki performances. Yuichiro Kanai has been building kabuki sets for many years. He likens kabuki sets to colourful woodblock prints. Kabuki stage sets are based on unique aesthetic principles not found in Western theatre. Most of all, there should be no area in shadow, so that the set looks like a multicoloured ukiyo-e print. When the actors come out on stage, the aim is that it should look like an ukiyo-e in motion. Let's look at an actual kabuki set. This is a scene on a mountainside. The cherry blossoms are in full bloom. A closer look at the backdrop reveals that the petals have not been painted realistically. They are stylized. This stylization makes the whole tableau more beautiful when seen from the seats of the theatre. There are tricks to giving a set the illusion of depth. This set represents a spacious room. It seems to extend quite far back. However, in actuality, the depth is only 1 metre. The floor and ceiling have been painted using extreme forced perspective. This clever use of two-dimensional images makes the room look bigger while keeping it within the confines of the stage. The layout of the kabuki stage is also designed to engage audiences. One hallmark is the runway that extends out from the stage into the seats. It's used by the actors to make entrances and exits. It's very exciting for the audience to be so close to the actors. And the runway is not just for entrances and exits. In some kabuki plays, it represents the seashore or a trail through the mountains. The kabuki stage features a revolving platform at its center. This system for smooth set changes was invented in the mid-18th century, inspired by spinning tops. Then there are the trapdoors used to lift actors or sets on stage from below or to lower them off. It's a very dramatic way to make an entrance. Here's one example of impressive kabuki stagecraft featuring the use of a trapdoor. The thief Benten Kozo is battling a horde of pursuers on a roof. The set here is a simple black and white design. As Benten Kozo, resigned to his fate, commits ritual suicide on the roof, the whole roof tilts backwards, with him still on it. This elaborate piece of stagecraft is called an overturning set. The backdrop of blooming cherry blossoms flips up and an ornate temple gate rises through a trapdoor. The abrupt shift in color further adds to the drama. The unique elements of kabuki stagecraft play a key role in making performances exciting.
The term kabuki derives from a Japanese word meaning to grab attention by acting outlandishly. It appears that in the 16th and 17th centuries there were people who went around dressed in odd clothes and doing weird things as well. I suspect that the impression they gave to passers-by would be maybe akin to something like the punks in the 1970s. Anyway, you had these people who were known as kabuki types, and it was one of these flamboyant kabuki types who was thought to have been the founder of kabuki theatre. Let's go back now and take a look at some of that history.
The origin of kabuki goes back 400 years to the early 17th century. It all began, they say, with Okuni, a maiden at Izumo Grand Shrine in Shimane Prefecture. She came to Kyoto and danced in an unusual and sensual style that became known as kabuki. Okuni would dance dressed up in garish men's clothing. Her performances became very popular in Kyoto. Hoping to be just as popular, many other women began dancing in a similar style. But then, to preserve public order, the authorities prohibited women from dancing on stage. By the mid-17th century, men were the only kabuki performers. They even performed the female roles. The style of kabuki theatre we know today had formed. With men playing all the roles, the dancing in kabuki was largely replaced by drama, and playhouses were thrown up all around Edo, drawing crowds of spectators. This kabuki boom gave birth to many stars of the stage. In an age before photography, woodblock prints of the actors were popular with the public. Even after Japan began to modernize and westernize in the late 19th century, kabuki remained a favorite entertainment. But Japan's defeat in the Second World War brought a moment of crisis. The US occupation authorities were determined to stamp out Japanese militarism. As part of that effort, they issued a prohibition on performances that glorified feudalistic values, including plays with a revenge theme. Almost the entire kabuki repertoire was outlawed. The only plays spared were ones that featured mainly dancing. The authorities did not accept the argument that kabuki emphasized such universal values as caring for one's family and loved ones. But in the occupation forces was a man sympathetic to the kabuki cause. This high-ranking official argued that kabuki was a treasure not just of Japan, but of the world. Two years after the war's end, the ban on classic kabuki plays was finally lifted. Kabuki sprang back to life. More than 60 years have passed since then, and kabuki has done much more than simply stick to its traditions. New plays continue to be written. This one is based on the Western opera Aida. The kabuki theatre is always exploring new forms of expression.
Over its 400-year history, kabuki has of course developed. In addition to preserving the traditional classic plays, there have been new additions to the repertoire. As we saw in the video just now, occasionally you'll even find a story taken from opera, say, and then translated into kabuki, so you get a distinctive mixture sometimes of old and new. Even this theatre has, for example, modern-style seats, whereas everybody in the past would have sat on the floor. But if you take a look at the overall design here, it very much evokes what you might have seen back in the samurai era, when people crammed into these fairly intimate spaces to see the action right in front of their eyes. Let's take a look now at Japan's oldest existing kabuki playhouse.
This is Kotohira, a town in Kagawa Prefecture. Kotohira is home to a playhouse that is treasured by top kabuki actors. Its official name is Kompira Grand Theatre, but it's popularly known as the Kanamaruza. It's just like it was centuries ago. This is the oldest kabuki playhouse in Japan. Each spring, the Kanamaruza hosts kabuki performances that draw fans from all across Japan. These performances are made possible by the efforts of local volunteers. The Kanamaruza has room for about 800 playgoers. On the first floor is tatami mat seating, marked off in a grid. The closeness between actors and audience is part of the charm of the Kanamaruza. The seating area is flanked by windows. Before electricity, performances were generally held during the day, and lighting was changed by opening and closing the shutters. The mask of white makeup, the gaudy costumes, the sets. These were all originally devised to stand out in the dim interior of a kabuki theatre. At the Kanamaruza, all the stagecraft equipment is hand-operated. The revolving set sits on a turntable spun around by stagehands. Beneath the turntable are wooden wheels about 10 centimeters in diameter. These allow the sets to rotate smoothly. The trapdoors are also worked manually. Several stagehands lift up the actors. In all these ways, the Kanamaruza keeps alive what kabuki was like back in the days of the samurai. In 2003, the theatre underwent a major restoration, and remarkable centuries-old stage rigging was discovered. Now, this is a scene in a play where an angel returns to heaven, and it requires the fly system. Can the ingenuity of samurai days soar again? The angel ascends magnificently in a dramatic scene that brings a burst of applause. Great fun for actor and audience. That's what Kabuki is all about.
You can see that Kabuki is very much a popular art form that's been nurtured equally by the actors and the audience too. We've also seen how Kabuki rebounded after being temporarily suppressed following the Second World War. Similarly, it survived the onslaught of cinema, television, and all the other new media that have come along since. And even now, when tickets go on sale for a new Kabuki production, they get snapped up immediately by its legions of fans. I haven't seen a Kabuki play for actually quite a number of years now, so seeing as I'm here, I may as well take advantage of the fact. I'll see you again next time.
Japan is home to more than 300 species of wild vegetables. We explore their history, their healthy appeal, and the new ways they're contributing to everyday life.